In this video, you will learn how to evaluate rational expressions along with the practical use of the store key. In the first example, we're going to evaluate the rational function at x equals 3. This means everywhere we see an x in the function, we're going to replace it with the value of 3. So we're going to break this up into two parts, the numerator and the denominator. So what we need to do is have grouping symbols around the numerator and then grouping symbols around the denominator. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take our left-hand parenthesis and then put in our operation of the numerator, which is 3 squared plus 7 times 3 added to 1. Then we're going to close the parenthesis. Then that's going to be divided by the denominator, so we put grouping symbols around the denominator. And then we have 3 multiplied by 3 squared, subtract 2 times 3 added to 3. And now we're going to close the right-hand parenthesis with the grouping symbol. So you want to make sure that when you are evaluating rational functions or rational expressions that you put parentheses around the numerator and parentheses around the denominator. And you must do that because order of operations holds true for this calculator, and if you don't do that, you're going to get the incorrect answer. Okay? So let's go ahead and hit enter, and there is our answer. Okay? Now, let's compute this in two parts. The numerator first and store the answer in A, and the denominator next and store the answer in B. Then we'll take A divided by B. So let's go ahead and just input the numerator. So that's going to be 3 squared plus 7 times 3 added to 1. And then we're going to store that answer in A. So we need to hit the store key and then alpha, and then here's the A, so we hit that button. Then we hit enter. Okay, so this value of 31 is now stored in the memory register of A. Now let's compute the denominator. That's going to be 3 multiplied by 3 squared, subtract 2 times 3, and then added to 3. And we're going to store that in B. So we hit the store button and then alpha and then stored in the letter B. So we hit this key. Then we hit enter. Okay? So this value of 24 is stored in the memory register of B. So now we're going to go ahead and take A divided by B. So we hit alpha and then A divided by alpha and B. And then we hit enter. And we should get the same answer as we have right here. And there we have it. You can see that this answer is the same as the one above. So that's just one way you can do it. You can compute your numerator and store it in A, compute your denominator and store it in B, and then just take A divided by B to get your answer. Because sometimes it's more difficult to enter the whole expression in one computation. It might be easier to break it up into two different pieces. So let's go ahead and clear the screen here. In example 2, we're going to compute the expression, or we can say evaluate the expression. So let's go ahead and compute this. So it's going to be the same situation. We're going to start out with the numerator by starting with the left parenthesis. So that's going to be 2 cubed, so 2 raised to the third power, times 3, subtract 4, multiplied by 5, and then added to 6. And that's the numerator, so we need to close the parenthesis. Now we're going to divide that by the denominator, so we need to start a new grouping symbol. So we have negative 20 divided by negative 5 divided by 8. And that finishes the denominator, so we're going to close the grouping symbol and we hit enter to get our answer. And you can see our answer is 20. So let's do the same thing as we did in example number 1. We're going to first compute the numerator and then store it in A, and then we're going to compute the denominator and store it in B, and then we're going to take A divided by B, and we should get 20. So let's do that. So let's take the numerator, 2 raised to the 3rd power multiplied by 3, subtract 4 times 5 added to 6. And we're going to store that value, so we hit the store key, in A. So we hit alpha and then A. We hit enter, and there is the value of the numerator, which is stored in the memory register of A. And then now let's compute the denominator. So that's going to be negative 20 divided by negative 5 divided by 8. And we're going to store that in B. So we hit alpha and then this key here to get the B. So we hit enter, and we can see that 0.5 or 1/2 is the value of the denominator. So we're going to take the numerator 10 divided by the denominator of 0.5, and that was A and this is B. So we can just go alpha A divided by alpha and then B, and we hit enter to get our answer. And our answer is 20, as it was in the first computation we did. Okay, so this concludes the video on computing rational expressions or evaluating a rational function at a specific value, and just a practical use of the store key.